Hey guys, welcome to my channel Learning Made Easy Peasy. Hey everyone, I hope you all are doing well. Today in this class we are going to learn full history of 10th standard part 1 textbook, that is the Karnataka state government published textbook, and this video is related to only competitives. So let's begin. The first lesson in this textbook is Advent of Europeans to India. The first question of the day, Constantinople. The city of Constantinople was established by whom and when? We had done this in the previous classes. Constantinople was the center of international trade and was considered as the gateway of European trade. In 1453 CE, Ottoman Turks captured Constantinople. This is important. Please remember the year 1453 CE. Who captured Constantinople? Ottoman Turks. Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese sailor, left Lisbon and reached Kappadu near Calicut on the west coast of India in 1498 CE. This is also very important. Please remember the year and the actual place where he reached. That was Kappadu. Portuguese were therefore the first to re-establish trade between India and Europe. 1869, a huge canal called Suez Canal was built in Egypt to connect the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. What do you mean by canal? Canal is a deep cut that is made through land so that boats or ships can travel along it, or so that water can flow or reach to areas or to places where it is needed. That is what is canal. All these terms like canal, bay, ocean, sea, etc. have different meanings. Please understand their meanings to understand their work and importance. The distance between Mumbai and London through Cape of Good Hope was 10,800 nautical miles. Distance through Suez Canal was 6,200 nautical miles. 1 nautical mile is equal to 1.85 kilometers. This is important. It will be asked. Next, in this map, we can see the Suez Canal over here. And you can see how the Suez Canal connects the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. So this is Red Sea over here, and this is Mediterranean Sea, and this is Suez Canal. You can see it clearly what it is. It's a deep cut that is made through land so that the boats and ship can travel along it. Or also because, these people over here or the places where the water is not reaching, the water is made able to flow in those areas. I hope you have understood the meaning of Suez Canal now. This is the Suez Canal. The next picture over here, this is a map, and this shows you the places from all the East India companies came and ruled India. So first we have Britain over here, the England, the English East India Company that we say, English East India Company. Then we have France over here. From here we had the French East India Company. Here we have the Portugal. Portuguese came from Portugal or Holland or Netherlands, and the Dutch were from here. So the Dutch too have ruled India. I hope this is clear. Let us first understand the Portuguese. After Vasco da Gama was the first Portuguese person who came to India in 1498 CE. So he was the first Portuguese person who came to India, and therefore Portuguese were the first people who re-established the trade between East and West. So after Vasco da Gama, Francisco de Almeida came to India, and he came to India as a viceroy, Portuguese viceroy. He implemented the blue water policy. This is a very important policy. Please read about it. To establish supremacy over the sea, Alfonso de Albuquerque is called as the real founder of the Portuguese Empire in India. Alfonso de Albuquerque came after Francisco de Almeida, and he was the person who fought against the Bijapur Sultans and defeated them, and he conquered Goa in 1510 CE, etc., etc. So he has done a lot to establish the Portuguese power in India, and that is why he is called as the real founder of Portuguese Empire in India. Next, we have the Dutch. The Dutch were from the Holland or the Netherlands. Both the same, it is one country only. They established United East India Company in 1602. Please remember the years. Okay, the years are very important. We have English. On 31st December 1600, Queen Elizabeth issued royal charter authorizing the East India Company to trade with the eastern countries for 15 years. So it was only 15 years first, later on it goes on extending, and like that they have ruled us for more than 100 years. So, the Mughal Emperor Jahangir issued royal permission to English to establish the first warehouse or factory at Surat. And who was the person who issued them dastaks? This is another question. Please comment below the answers. Factories, their factories were at Agra, Ahmedabad, Bhuj, and later in the 18th century, Kolkata became their capital. So, this is also important. Then we have French. Government owned company in 1664 CE. The year is important. First factory at Surat. They also established their first factory at Surat in 1668 CE. This is also important. In 1674, they took Valikandapuram from a local Muslim official. Valikandapuram, what is this? It is nothing but Puducherry or Pondicherry. This is also important. Please remember this. Okay, this can be asked. Then we have the Carnatic Wars. The first Carnatic War happened from 1746 to 1748, and it ended with the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. This treaty is important. Sometimes they ask you as to which war ended with which treaty. So you should be able to tell this without a second thought. So please remember that the first Carnatic War ended with the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. Then we have the Second Carnatic War. It happened from 1749 to 1754. Hyderabad Kingdom was established in 1724 by Asaf Jah, and Asaf Jah died in 1748. Hyderabad, there was some, a conflict, internal conflict in Hyderabad between this Muzaffar Jung and Nasir Jung for the throne of the Nizam. In Carnatic, same way there was an internal conflict in Carnatic also between Chand Sahib and Anwaruddin. English supported Nasir Jung and Anwaruddin, whereas the French supported Muzaffar Jung and Chand Sahib. Arcot was the capital city of Carnatic. This is important. The Treaty of Pondicherry. Second Carnatic War ended with the Treaty of Pondicherry. This is also important. Please remember the things that are important. Then we have the Third Carnatic War. This war happened from 1756 to 1763. This ended with the Treaty of Paris. This is also important. Why am I continuously telling you the years? Because in the exams like PC or PSI, they will often ask you the years or the dates as well. So please be familiar with the dates and the years so that it will become very easy for you to crack the competitives. Here we have certain important points. Let us see. The Dastaks, that is the license, was issued by the Mughal Emperor Farrukhsiyar. I had questioned you previously. So this is the answer to that question. Farrukhsiyar, the Mughal Emperor who issued dastaks or license to the British to trade freely, was none but Farrukhsiyar. What is this dastak? It is a license that could ensure anyone to import and export without paying any tax and transport goods anywhere. Nawab of Bengal, Ali Vardi Khan, died in 1757. His grandson Sirajud-Daulah became the Nawab. The Battle of Plassey took place in 1757. This is very, very important. Please remember the year. The Black Hole Tragedy. Siraj-ud-Dawla conquered Fort William and imprisoned 146 Englishmen, and of which 123 died. This is called as Black Hole or the Black Room tragedy. This is important. Battle of Buxar happened in 1764. Again, this year is important. Please remember, it happened between Mir Qasim, Mughal ruler Shah Alam II, Nawab of Awadh, Shuja-ud-Dawla, and the British army led by Hector Munro. All this is to be remembered. Diwani rights means what? The right to collect the land taxes. This is also important. In 1765, Robert Clive brought in the dual government. This is very, very important. 1765, who brought in the dual government? It was Robert Clive. Dual government was brought in 1765 and it was brought in by Robert Clive. All this is important. Please remember. Here are the years to be remembered without fail. In 1600, we had English East India Company. So in 1600, English East India Company was established. In 1602, East India Company Netherlands, or you can say Holland, was established. In 1619, Mughal Emperor Jahangir allowed the British to conduct trade in Surat. In Surat on the west coast and in Hooghly on the east coast. Remember the places. In the west coast, it was only Surat, and in the east coast, it was only Hooghly. In 1639, English established their first warehouse in Surat. This is also important. Even French have established their first warehouse in Surat, but that was in 1668. So remember the years. 1664, the French East India Company was established in France. Can you see this picture over here? This region which covers a little part of, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana and Tamil Nadu over here, it was termed as Carnatic region. Carnatic region, and all the words of first Carnatic, second Carnatic and third Carnatic words were fought in this region for this region. I hope this is clear. Here we have completed the first lesson. The second lesson is the extension of the British rule. In this, we will see the Anglo-Maratha War. So let us first understand the first Anglo-Maratha War that took place from 1775 to 1782. Madhav Rao too was the minor son of Narayan Rao and he was made the Peshwa, that is the Prime Minister. Raghoba, his uncle, who was also called as Raghunath Rao, he wanted to be the Peshwa, so he sought the help of the British, and that is how in later period this First Anglo-Maratha War took place, and it ended with the Treaty of Salbhai or the Salbhai Agreement, and this is important. Please remember this, the Treaty of Salbhai or Salbhai Agreement. Then we have Lord Wellesley, very important person, followed three policies. His first policy was subsidiary alliance, which is very famous. Then waging war against any new state that was not under the control of the British. And the third was administering the states directly that were under the control of the British. This subsidiary alliance was brought into effect in 1798. This year is important. Please remember, 1798 subsidiary alliance was brought into effect. It was nothing but a military protection agreement that was given by the Britishers to any state, Indian state, that would accept certain conditions of this subsidiary alliance. And Hyderabad was the first state to enter into this agreement. It was not just Hyderabad. In the later time, we had many other states also, like Mysore, Awadh, then Tanjavur, Marathas, etc. Mysore, Awadh, Tanjavur, Marathas, Berar, Arcot, Pune and Gwalior and many other states in the later period accepted this subsidiary alliance, and they came under Britishers, under the military protection of Britishers. Second Anglo-Maratha War happened from 1803 to 1805. Enmity between Yashwant Rao of Holkar family and Daulat Rao of Scindia family. This was the reason. Peshwa entered subsidiary alliance system by the Treaty of Basin. This is important. British versus Holkar, Gwalior, Bhosle. So this second Anglo-Maratha war was fought between British on the one side and Holkar, Gwalior and Bhosle Marathas on the other side. Then we have the Third Anglo-Maratha War from 1817 to 1818. British abolished the Peshwa post. So the PM post that was there of the Marathas, British abolished that post itself and granted pension to Bajirao II and installed Pratap Simha, the descendant of Shivaji as the ruler of Satara. Then we have Anglo-Sikh Wars. So in total we had three Anglo-Maratha wars. All three are important. And the treaty with which these three wars ended, the people who were involved, all and the years are important. Please remember all these three things. Then we have the Anglo-Sikh Wars. In December 1845, British versus Punjab ended with Lahore Agreement in 1846. Sikhs opposed again. The opposition now was led by Chhattar Singh Attariwala in Lahore and Mool Raj in Multan. They were defeated. Finally, Dalhousie merged Punjab with British. Who merged Punjab with British? Dalhousie. This is important. Dalhousie, very important person. He made a policy of doctrine of lapse, very, very important. Please read about it. If any Indian ruler died childless, his adopted child or children were not accepted as the legal heir of the throne, or they had no legal right over the throne. And many states were conquered by this policy, like Satara, Nagpur, Sambalpur, Udaipur, Jhansi, Jaipur, and few other states. They came under the British through this policy of doctrine of lapse. This picture over here, this is Wellesley, and he is Lord Dalhousie. Can you see them? Okay. The third lesson is the impact of the British rule in India. Divide and rule policy. This cheap policy was used by the Britishers. War and negotiation methods were used by them cleverly. First is the civil services. Lord Cornwallis introduced the administration of civil services. So who was it? It was Lord Cornwallis. It's important. Please remember. What did he start? He introduced the administration of civil services. In 1800, Lord Cornwallis opened Fort William College in Calcutta, 1800. This is also important. Lord Cornwallis argued that all the natives of Hindustan are completely corrupt. Till 1853, there were no competitive exams. This is very, very important. Until when there were no competitive exams? It was till 1853. Then we have the judicial system. Warren Hastings is the governor in 1772. Two types of courts were needed to be established in each district. Two types of courts were needed to be established in each and every district. The first was the Diwani Adalat. Diwani Adalat means the civil court. And the other was the Fauzdari Adalat, means the criminal court. The civil courts under European officers and criminal courts were under the Qazis. This is important. Civil courts were under the European officers and criminal courts were under the Qazis. And Warren Hastings was the Governor General of India when? In 1772. Then we have the police system. Lord Cornwallis implemented the efficient police system in India for the first time. This is important. Anything that is first time is always important. Okay. He created the new post of Superintendent of Police, SP. Who created this new post of Superintendent of Police, SP? It was Lord Cornwallis. Again important. In 1793, he divided every district into many stations. Every station was under a kotwal. 1793. In 1793, Lord Cornwallis divided every district into many stations, and every station was under a kotwal. Every village was under a chowkidar. Every station was under a kotwal and every village was under a chowkidar. In 1861, the Indian Police Act was implemented. Very, very important. Please remember this. The Indian Police Act was implemented in 1861. Next, we have the military system. Indians could reach the rank of Subedar. Subedar was the highest post that Indians could reach. The British government accepted the recommendations of Peel Commission in 1857. Based on these recommendations, military system was redesigned. Then we have the permanent zamindari system. This was also started, or you can say implemented, by Lord Cornwallis, and it was first implemented in Bengal in 1773. The year is always important, and the person who did it, it was Lord Cornwallis. And where it was done? It was done in Bengal. Later, it was also done in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, all those areas. Okay. According to Charles Metcalfe, the Indian farmers were born in debt, lived in debt, and died in debt due to the land tax policies of the Britishers. Debt means what? Loan. Okay. So, and this quote that was given by Charles Metcalfe is true even today. Isn't it? What do you think about it? Please comment below what are your views on this particular thing that was told by Charles Metcalfe. Then we have the Mahalwari system. Mahal means taluk. This is important. Mahal means what? It is taluk. It is not palace. Mahal means taluk. And this Mahalwari system was established or implemented by R.M. Bird and James Thomson. This is very, very important. It was asked several times in previous competitive exams. This Mahalwari system was implemented by R.M. Bird and James Thomson. Then we have the Rayatwari system. It was first implemented in Baramahal region by Alexander Reed in 1792. Very, very important. The Rayatwari system is a system where there is, the collection of tax by the Britishers is directly done from the Rayat, that is farmers. So this kind of system was first implemented in Baramahal region by Alexander Reed in 1792. 1792 is the year. The person who did it was Alexander Reed, and the region where it was first implemented was Baramahal region. All these three things are very, very important. Please remember. Later implemented in Madras and Mysore region by Thomas Munro in 1801, the land tax had 30 years of tenure. 30 years of tenure. So after every 30 years of tenure, the land tax would be renewed. So it is like that. The modern education system. Warren Hastings facilitated the expansion of the modern education in India. In 1781, he started Kolkata Madrasa. This is important. Jonathan Duncan, a British citizen, started Sanskrit College in Banaras in 1792. This is also important. Charles Grants pressed for the universalization of the British education in India. Again important. Macaulay's policy aimed at the creation of a new class of Indians who are Indian only by body but by intelligence, opinion and taste they are all British. How cunning this Macaulay was, isn't it? The Governor General Lord Dalhousie established universities in Kolkata, Bombay and Madras. The first universities that were established by Lord Dalhousie were in the famous metro cities of Kolkata, Bombay and Madras. Remember the places, okay? It's important. As per the suggestions of Charles Wood Commission of 1854, this is also important. On the suggestion of which commission or whom did Lord Dalhousie establish the three universities in India? It was on the suggestion of the Charles Wood Commission of 1854. Constitutional developments. This is the most important part of this very lesson. Constitutional developments, in this we first have certain constitutional developments, certain acts that were done during the time of the East India Company, and then in the later period we also have certain acts that were issued by the British government directly. Okay, so there are two parts into it. Let us understand. In the first part, we have the acts that were issued by the East India Company, and the first was the Regulating Act of 1773. Very important act. Edmund Burke, a member of the British Parliament, criticized the corruption in the East India Company. Criminal tax. Important. Then we have the Supreme Court of Judicature was established in Kolkata. Again important. What do you mean by Supreme Court of Judicature? It is the Supreme Court. The first Supreme Court was established in Kolkata through this Act of Regulating Act of 1773. Okay. Then we have the Pitt's India Act of 1784. A new institution named Board of Control consisting of 6 commissioners was started. The Board of Controllers replaced the Board of Directors. The Act declared that the Indians have attained their paramount power in the name of British Empire only, but not on their own. The Charter Acts of 1793, 1813, 1833 and 1853, the main aim of Charter Acts was to renew the license of the company. Very important. To renew the license of the company was the main aim of these Charter Acts. So, the first is the Charter Act of 1813, which is given in your text. The free trade era started in India. A new era of license and authorization started. Then we have the Charter Act of 1833. The Governor General of Bengal was renamed as the Governor General of India. Very important. All these acts were the East India Company Acts. So the first acts that we see, that is the Regulating Act, the Pitt's India Act, and all these 4 Charter Acts were the Company Acts. Later, we have the British Government Acts. The first in this is the Indian Government Act of 1858. The Queen of England, Victoria, announced that all-round development of India would be ensured by the British government on 1st November 1858. Direct rule of the British government. Very important. Governor General, he became Viceroy. Governor General of India, the title of Governor General of India was renamed as the Viceroy of India, and Lord Canning became the first Viceroy of India. A new post called the Secretary of State for India was created in the British government. Again important. Second act is the Indian Councils Act of 1861. To understand the aspirations of Indians, representation was given to Indians. This was called as the policy of assertion. Again important. Viceroy could proclaim ordinances in case of emergency, like how now we have the governor or the prime minister who can proclaim the ordinances. In the same way, governor and the president who can proclaim the ordinances. In the same way, we had the viceroy who could proclaim the ordinances in case of emergency. We have this Indian Councils Act of 1892. Please remember the years. The years are always important, okay? Then we have the Indian Councils Act of 1909. It is also called as the Minto-Morley Reforms. Lord Minto was the Viceroy of India and Morley was the Secretary of State. Divide and rule policy was used through this, Consuls Act, and it was basically given by Minto, Lord Minto. Representation of the regional council was allowed through election for the first time. This is important. Separate electorate college was created, again important. Then we have the Government of India Act of 1919, Lord Montagu. This is also called as Lord Montagu Chelmsford Reforms. Montagu was the Secretary of the State for India, and Chelmsford was the Viceroy of India. Montagu Chelmsford Reforms Act. A High Commissioner was appointed for India. This is again important. Separate electoral college was extended for the Muslims, Sikhs, Anglo-Indians and Europeans. Again important. Finally, we have the Government of India Act of 1935. The report submitted in 1928 under the leadership of Motilal Nehru was instrumental in the formation of this act. Reserve Bank of India was established, important. The RK was established at the center, very, very important. In which act it was established in the provinces? It's a question to you. Please find the answers and comment below. Federal Court was established when? See, find out the years of Reserve Bank of India when it was established and the federal court, and please comment below. And also remember that very limited information is given about these constitutional developments in the textbook. However, whatever was given is added over here in this PPT, in this class. But later when we will have series of classes of Lakshmikant. Lakshmikant, I hope you all know this. This is the very standard book, a book which is used by every UPSC aspirant. So we are going to have very soon a series of on this book of Lakshmikant. So when we will be having this series, we will deal with these constitutional developments in detail. So please stay tuned. Here we have completed the third lesson. Fourth lesson is opposition to the British rule in Karnataka. In the 18th century, Indian history is considered as the century of political problems. This is important. In this, we learn the four Anglo-Mysore Wars. So let us first see the first Anglo-Mysore War. It happened from 1767 to 1769. And this war ended with the Treaty of Madras. This is important. The first Anglo-Mysore War ended with the Treaty of Madras. Then we have the second Anglo-Mysore War. It happened from 1780 to 1784. Madhav Rao attacked Srirangapatna, but British did not help Hyder Ali. After the first Anglo-Mysore War, the Britishers had promised Hyder Ali that they will help Hyder Ali whenever someone else attacks on their kingdom, but British failed to keep their promise. British attacked Mahe and captured it. Hyder Ali died due to illness during the war, and the war was continued by his son Tipu Sultan. Finally, this war ended with the Treaty of Mangalore. This is also important. Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan used missiles during the war for the first time in India. This is very important. They nationalized tobacco and sandalwood. So tobacco and sandalwood was nationalized by Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan. This is also important. Then we have the third Anglo-Mysore War, the Treaty of Srirangapatna. The third Anglo-Mysore War ended with the Treaty of Srirangapatna in 1792. This year is to be remembered, and this is important again. Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, Lord Wellesley, he became the Governor General of India in 1798. The year is important. Please remember this. Sometimes they also ask you as to who was the Governor General of India during the time of Third Anglo-Mysore War, Second Anglo-Mysore War, or First Anglo-Maratha War, Second Anglo-Sikh War, etc. So please be ready for such questions as well. It is important to remember as to who was what during the particular Anglo-Mysore, Anglo Wars. Okay, so here Lord Wellesley was the Governor General of India in 1792. Tipu died in 1799 fighting British. A small territory was handed over to the royal representative of Mysuru over the years. This region came to be known as the Mysuru Princely States. After the Anglo-Mysore Wars, four Anglo-Mysore Wars, we have certain people who fought against the Britishers individually. Okay, so the first among them is Dondia Wagh, 1800. He was called as the Wagh, the tiger, due to his bravery. So, rebellion of Kittur, brave Kittur Rani Channamma, 1824. Please remember the year is important. Kittur lies between Dharwad and Belgaum. Shivalinga Rudra Sarja, who was he? He was the son of Malla Sarja, king of Kittur, had made an agreement with the British during the time of Thomas Munro, and after making the agreement, he just died. Channamma, after his death, adopted a boy, a son named Shivalingappa. The name of the son is important. It was Shivalingappa. Started ruling Kittur as a queen regent. Thackeray was the collector and political agent of the British in Dharwad. Then we have Sangoli Rayana 1829 to 1830. He always fought with Kittur Rani Channamma, and many ballads are written on Sangoli Rayana. Even today, these kinds of ballads that are written on Sangoli Rayana are famous in certain villages. Okay. Then we have the rebellion of Amara Sulya. Farmers' rebellion. This rebellion was a farmers' rebellion. Please remember this, it is important. British dethroned the ruler of Kodagu, Chikkaveera Rajendra of Helari dynasty in 1834. Swami Aparampura, Kalyana Swami and Puttabasappa. Swami Aparampura is the leader of the rebellion. This is important, and all these people were the people who were involved in this rebellion. Rebellion of Surapura and Koppal. Venkatappa Nayaka, born in 1834. Venkatappa Nayaka, the Nayaka of Keladi. Do you remember? We have done in the previous classes. So Venkatappa Nayaka was the person who revolted against the British from Surapura. So born in 1834, he appointed Meadows Taylor as their resident. British appointed an officer named Campbell to report about the king, leader of 1857 revolt in Karnataka. Then we have Veerappa of Koppala. Veerappa of Koppala was actually a zamindar. Then we have the rebellion of the Bedas of Halagali. Halagali is a small village of Mudhol Taluk of Belgaum district. This is important. Mudhol Taluk, it's a small village of Belgaum district. Belgaum district. Bedas means what? They were the good hunters. This is also important. Sometimes they just ask you the meaning of a small, simple word, but again, the students, many students, they fail to answer it. So you should remember this, that Bedas means what? Good hunters. Here we have some pictures for you. This picture, can you see over here? This is Dondia Wagh. Dondia Wagh, the tiger. And this is the picture of a queen, a brave queen, Kittur Rani Channamma. And this is none other than Sangoli Rayana, who always stood with Kittur Rani Channamma and on whom many ballads are famous. This is Veerappa of Koppalla. And here we have the Keladi king, Venkatappa Nayaka of Surapura. This rebellion, can you see over here? This is the rebellion of Amara Sulya. And he is the leader of the Marasurya. Who was it? Comment below. And this is a picture of the Bedas fighting against the Britishers. Bedas, can you see? They are dressing, they are attire, they are whatever. Everything talks about who they are. They were the good hunters. Alright. So here we have completed the fourth lesson. The fifth lesson is social and religious reform movement. This lesson is very important in itself, not just from the point of view of competitives, but also for the 10th standard students. So please pay attention. The 19th century is considered as the period of reformation and new awakening. The British put forth the theory of white man's burden. A new identity called Indian was born. So here we see various social and religious reform movements, the kind of Samaj or whatever philosophies that were given by great personalities. And first of it is the Brahmo Samaj that was started by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Can you see this picture over here? He is none other than Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Okay, so here let us start Brahmo Samaj. Raja Ram Mohan Roy started Atmiya Sabha in Calcutta. He started Brahmo Samaj in 1828. The year is important. Please remember, William Bentinck, the then Governor General, brought in a law prohibiting the sati system in 1829. This was all because of the fightings, the opposition that was done by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He fought against sati in such a way that it was finally prohibited by law with the help of William Bentinck in 1829. He also fought against other social evils as well. He published a journal named Samveda Kaumudi in Bengali language. This is very important. The language was Bengali and the name is Samveda Kaumudi. Please remember. Rabindranath Tagore called Raja Ram Mohan Roy as the harbinger of modern India, progenitor of Indian social reformation movement and the prophet of Indian nationalism. All this is important. Young Bengal movement, the second one. This movement was started by Henry Louis Vivian Derozio. Important person, he was an Anglo-Indian. He started the Academic Association 1828, a free thinking debate association which created new thinking across Bengal. What was this Academic Association? It was a free thinking debate association which created a new awakening, new thinking across Bengal. Can you see this picture over here? This is a picture of Henry Louis Vivian Derozio. The third one is the Arya Samaj. This was started in 1875 by Dayanand Saraswati. It was started in Bombay. The name of Dayanand Saraswati, the early name was Moola Shankara. Moola Shankara, this is important. Several times they ask you the early name or the later name of certain great personalities. So please remember this. It is important. Book is Satyartha Prakash. This is also important. He declared back to Vedas. All this is important. Please remember. He opened the head office of Arya Samaj in Lahore in 1877. This is also important. Then we have the Shuddhi movement, that is reconversion of people to Hinduism who had converted into Islam and Christianity. This was also started by Swami Dayanand Saraswati. Cow Protection Association was started to protect the cows. Dayanand Anglo-Vedic College was started by Dayanand Saraswati in 1886. Gurukula Vidyalaya was started in Haridwara. All this is important, okay? The Shuddhi movement, the Dayanand Anglo-Vedic College, Gurukula Vidyalaya, Lala Lajpat Rai was influenced by the principles of Arya Samaj. Which freedom fighter was influenced by the principles of Arya Samaj? It was Lala Lajpat Rai. Again, important. Can you see this picture over here? This is Moola Shankara, that is Dayanand Saraswati. Then the fourth one is Prarthana Samaj. It was founded by Dr. Atmaram Panduranga in 1867 at Bombay. The year is important. The person who started it is important. This picture is the picture of Atmaram Panduranga. Then we have the Satya Shodhak Samaj. It was established in 1876 to provide equal rights to the non-Brahmin class and women. Founded by Mahatma Jyotibai Phule. Very important person. Please read as much as you can about Mahatma Jyotibai Phule because many questions appear on him in the competitive exams. This picture is the picture of Mahatma Jyotibai Phule. So he wrote books. Gulam Giri. This book was written on whom? Comment below. We have done this in the previous classes. And Shetkarayacha Asad, that is Cultivator's Whipcord. So his books are important. Please remember these books, Gulam Giri and Shetkarayacha Asad. Phule was from Mali community. Mali is also a low caste community. Okay. Ambedkar was always inspired by the work of this couple. Which couple? Jyotiba Phule and his wife Savitribai Phule. Which book Savitribai Phule has written? Please comment below. Then we have the Aligarh Reformation movement. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. This is a picture of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and he was the person who started this Aligarh Reformation movement. The Mohammedan Literary Society was established in 1863. Founded Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College. in Aligarh in 1875. It later became the Aligarh Muslim University. Very, very important. This is also important. All these 3 points are important. Please remember. Ramakrishna Mission, Ramakrishna Mutt. This picture over here is the picture of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda founded Ramakrishna Mission at Belur near Kolkata in 1897. This is important. Advaita Ashrama, a branch of Ramakrishna Mutt, was established at Mayavati near Almora, Uttarakhand. Spiritual guru of Swami Vivekananda was Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Very, very important. Spiritual guru or teacher, whatever you call. He wanted to establish a casteless society. Who? Ramakrishna Paramahamsa as well as Swami Vivekananda. He believed it is the duty of the religion to provide light. Without this, religion itself is of no use. The one who responds to the poor is Mahatma, and the one who doesn't is Duratma. What a beautiful quote. This quote was given by Swami Vivekananda. We should take the humanity to such a place where there is no Quran, Vedas, and Bible. Still, we need to attain thus by attaining unity among the Quran, Vedas, and Bible. In our country, there is no need for unity between Hindu and Muslim. A Vedic mind and Islamic body is the only path of progress. What beautiful thoughts and beautiful quotes Swami Vivekananda had. I hope every person should have such qualities, the qualities which were inherited by Swami Vivekananda, isn't it? Swami Vivekananda at Chicago City is in the parliament of world religions in 1893. This is also important. The Congress of Religions held at Paris in 1900. Vivekananda visited Mysuru before he visited Chicago as a guest of Chamaraja Vadiyar X, and it was actually Chamaraja Vadiyar X who helped Swami Vivekananda financially to go and visit Chicago. Then Vivekananda wrote books on Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. This is also important. Theosophical Society, founded by Madame Blavatsky and Colonel H.S. Olcott, came to Adyar, Madras. Adyar, Madras is an important place. Also see on map where this Adyar falls or comes. Okay. Established the head office of Theosophical Society in 1886. The year is important. Irish lady Annie Besant arrived in India as the member of Theosophical Society in 1893. Annie Besant translated Bhagavad Gita into English. Besant was called as Shweta Saraswati. This is important. This is very, very important. Who was called as Shweta Saraswati? It was Mrs. Annie Besant. She started Central Hindu College at Banaras in 1898. The same institution became a university. Okay, it became Banaras Hindu University. Madan Mohan Malaviya in 1916. What is this? Please comment below. She started two periodicals, New India and Commonwealth. This is very, very important. Two periodicals started by Annie Besant was New India and Commonwealth. New India, this name of periodical or newspaper was started by another person as well. What is his name? Please comment below. She started Home Rule League in 1916 and initiated Home Rule movement in Madras region. The first woman president of Indian National Congress was Annie Besant. This is very, very important. Who was the first woman president of Indian National Congress? It was Annie Besant. Rule. Irish people who were under the rule of the British started Home Rule movement to assert their rights of self-governing. Two Home Rule movements were started in India as well. It were both started in 1916. Tilak started it in Pune and Annie Besant started in Adyar, Madras. So only the places differ. They both started it in 1916. Tilak started it in Pune and Annie Besant started it in Madras. This picture over here is the picture of Annie Besant. Tilak's two periodicals were Maratha and Kesari. These are also important, and the Maratha was in English language and Kesari was in Marathi. Then we have Sri Narayana Dharma Paripalana Yogam. This picture over here is the picture of Sri Narayana Guru. Sri Narayana Guru was the person who started the Sri Narayana Dharma Paripalana Yogam in 1993. He is very famous in Karnataka, especially for the upliftment of Ezava community of Kerala. Ezava community of Kerala. This is important. One caste, one religion, and one God for human beings was the basic idea of Sri Narayana Guru. Narayana Guru and his companions, who were they? Dr. Palpu and Kumaran Asan, started Vaikom Satyagraha movement. This is very, very important. In 1924, what does this Vaikom Satyagraha movement of 1924 say? Demanded entry for lower caste people in the Shiva temple. Shiva temple. Gandhiji and Periyar, the architects of self-respect movement, also participated in this. Very, very important. Finally, we have Periyar. In the beginning of the 20th century, a non-Brahmin movement was started in South India. The Justice Party started in 1916, continued this movement in Tamil Nadu. Self-respect movement led by E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar. This picture is of E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar, who was called as Periyar as well with love, became a new force. E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar started the Self-Respect League in 1926. He was called as Periyar. Periyar means what? Senior person. He said Tamil was the language of Dravidians. Periyar became the president of the Justice Party in 1939. He started an association called Dravida Kazhagam. This is very important. He also started an English magazine under the title Revolt. This is also important. Periyar as an ideological symbol in Tamil Nadu politics is evident in the Tamil Nadu political parties who retained the word Dravida in names. The ideological non-Brahmanical movement started by C. Ayodhya Das Pandit and T. M. Nair was turned into a cultural movement by Periyar. So here we have completed the 5th lesson as well. The final lesson, the 6th lesson, the last lesson is the First War of Indian Independence. Indian independence. So Indians called it as the first Indian freedom struggle, but the English termed it as Sepoy Mutiny. The weavers became the first victims as wool and cloth making industries suffered a lot. British provided Royal Enfield guns. The bullets of these guns were smeared with the fat of pig and cow. And my dear friends, you all know that pig is haram to Muslims and cow is sacred to Hindus. So none of us would love to use these Royal Enfield guns, isn't it? To load the bullets in the gun, a part of the bullet was to be chewed off. A soldier named Mangal Pandey shot dead a British officer. Nana Sahib, he revolted against the British from Kanpur. Rani Lakshmi Bai revolted against the British from Jhansi. The places from which certain great personalities revolted against the British is very important. So please remember as to who revolted from whom. Okay, Nana Sahib revolted from Kanpur, Rani Lakshmi Bai Jhansi, or Rani Lakshmi Bai revolted from Jhansi. Then, British decided to involve the Indians in the process of legislation and implemented the policy of association. Finally, we have a map over here. Can you see? This is a map which shows you the places all over India from which the Indian Revolt of 1857 took place. It was indeed a great revolt of Indians against the British. But the thing that we did not win was because we were all divided. There was no unity, and that was the main reason that the first war of Indian independence failed and we did not achieve freedom that time. So, guys, today also we are basically divided on the basis of or in the name of religion, caste, creed, etc. So, where are we going? Are we going backwards? Are we going back? What have we learned from history? Haven't we got anything from our books? Haven't we? So we are supposed to move forward and always remember that our own people are dividing on the basis of religion, caste, creed, and race, and we are not to be divided because anything that's divided is to be disintegrated, is to be diminished, is to be destroyed. We have to be united, and before belonging to any religion, caste, creed, or race, we belong to this land of India and we are called as Indians. We are all first Indians and then we belong to particular race, religion, caste, or creed. So please remember this and please don't get divided. Please do not pollute your minds. Please do not brainwash anyone else. Nothing is more important than this land. Nothing is more important than humanity. Humanity, which is diminishing every day. So please stand for your land, stand for humanity, stand for humans, stand for equality. And here we have completed the sixth lesson. The full history of 10th standard part 1 textbook is done. I hope you enjoyed this class. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Please do like, comment, share, subscribe to my channel and don't forget to press the bell icon. Thank you.